I'm VJ Hamilton and welcome to the Autoimmune Reset, the place for you to learn how to thrive with autoimmune disease and feel empowered to take steps to transform your health to feel better than ever. You can start making changes today to improve your health. So with every episode, my mission is to share with you simple ways to up-level your diet and lifestyle with key learnings from my own journey reversing autoimmune disease and inspirational stories from those who have reset their autoimmune symptoms and are now thriving in life. I suffered from autoimmune disease for over 25 years and now I live symptom-free, and I wish the same for you as well. So thank you for being here and sharing this time with me. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome back to this Friday 5 episode of the Autoimmune RESET Podcast. I'm your host, VJ Hamilton. I'm a nutritionist, scientist, and expert in autoimmune disease. And today's Friday 5 is slightly different because when we talk about autoimmunity, we often focus on test results or supplements or protocols or elimination diets and mitochondria support. There's so many things that we talk about a lot. And all of that matters, of course. But what is rarely spoken about and what is profoundly influential is connection, and autoimmune disease can be extraordinarily isolating. I know growing up with it, no one had even heard of autoimmune disease at that point. I think people are far more familiar with it now. A lot of the time when you're living with these conditions, you feel fine, yet your body feels so unpredictable. You might be cancelling plans with your friends. They just think that that's what you always do and you're always letting them down. You might not have the energy to explain your symptoms the 10th time to people. I know even now, some people in my family don't understand what it was like living with chronic fatigue syndrome. And even now, when I've got my energy back, I just realize it's not worth me trying to explain it to them, especially when you're living with it. And you do begin to feel separate from the people you love, to be honest, from your own body, and sometimes even yourself. So today I want to talk about 5 ways to rebuild connection when you are living with an autoimmune disease. So the first is to reconnect with your body, because one of the most subtle shifts in chronic illness is thinking negatively. And you might be thinking, my body is attacking itself. Why is it doing this? My immune system is broken. Why is my body doing this to me? I feel weird, I feel different. And that internal language matters. And your immune system is not malicious and not dysregulated. It's absolutely amazing. And it's being over vigilant because it's responding to signals in the body that something isn't right. And connection begins with the shift from fighting your own body to actually listening to it. And instead of thinking about how do I suppress this, we need to be thinking more about what is my body signaling right now and what should I be listening to? Because the more I've listened to my body, the better my body has been and the better I have been. And the reason that I have been able to regain my health is because I started listening to my body and started being kind to my body as well. Fatigue is likely a resource allocation issue. So if you have fatigue, think about the reason why you have fatigue. If you have joint pain, then it's likely there's some inflammation happening in your body. And if you are losing hair, then your body is conserving energy for other functions. And when we move from a way of interpreting these signs of our bodies attacking us and causing us harm and actually thinking about what it's trying to tell us, then healing becomes collaborative rather than feeling like you are fighting against something. And that is really important when it comes to recovery. Next is to create micro moments in your nervous system that signal safety to you. And it's one of the things that I talk about a lot with clients, that they are not feeling safe for whatever reason. It can be external reasons. It can also be internal reasons or things that have happened. And autoimmune disease and nervous system dysregulation are deeply entwined because chronic stress alters gut permeability. It can increase inflammatory cytokines. It can shift your cortisol rhythm, and it can impact our T regulatory cells, which are so important for immune tolerance and our immune system being in harmony. And that's why connection requires safety. And it's not in a dramatic way, but in small, repeated ways that we can start to incorporate into our life. And that might be going outside for 5 minutes of morning light with a cup of tea. I love doing that, especially when spring starts, just getting outside. I watch the birds in the garden, drink a cup of tea, which I absolutely love. I am obsessed with tea. And it's such a nice start to the day. Or barefoot grounding in the garden, slow nasal breathing during the daytime or before a meal. And just eating a meal and eating it mindfully without scrolling on your phone or watching TV. And these may seem insignificant, but honestly, they're not. They signal to your immune system that your environment is not hostile, and your immune system will respond to that perceived threat in a beneficial way. Next is to find community that understands you. And one of the most exhausting parts of autoimmunity is explaining it. The symptoms fluctuate. You might be fine one day and not the next, and nobody understands why. The symptoms can be invisible. You might be feeling dreadful. You might be feeling dizzy. You might have a headache. You might be feeling so fatigued, and it's really hard to explain that to somebody. And connection deepens when you don't have to justify yourself all the time. And it's the reason I created both the Autoimmune Forum and the Root Reset Circle. And the Autoimmune Forum is a broader space for anyone who has an autoimmune condition. And I provide education over there, but also just bringing everybody together when we're all going through the same thing. Or, I've been through this. I know what it feels like when you're on your own living with these types of issues, whether it be alopecia or skin issues or chronic fatigue or living with migraines. I've been there, and I know that when you can talk to somebody that has strange symptoms like you do, it just helps you to feel more heard and more validated as well, which I think a lot of us need. And then I've also created the Root Reset Circle, which at the moment I'm supporting people who have children with alopecia. And I think a lot of the time when you are supporting somebody who's going through somebody like that, you need somebody else to talk to that is independent from that situation. And then speaking to other parents who are going through that as well, because it can be very scary if you haven't been through it before. And it's just good to speak to other people to share experiences. So community can honestly help to reduce that inflammatory load, because loneliness in itself can be pro-inflammatory. And when we're internalizing our stress, that can certainly be inflammatory as well. So we heal so much more effectively when we are connected to people who are living the same experiences as we are. And then we need to rebuild our social energy gradually. And many people swing between total isolation and overcommitment when it comes to autoimmunity. And I know this is what I did. I would feel great one day. I'd make loads of plans, I'd commit to loads of things, and then 3 days later I'd feel dreadful and I'd have to cancel everything. And it was just this cycle all the time in my life, and it was so frustrating. And when you do crash and when you do have to cancel, not only are you feeling terrible, but you feel so guilty, you feel worried about your friendships and the people you're connected with. And that's the nature of these conditions. Rather than making loads and loads of plans and feeling like that, it's just about taking it a step at a time. So if you are going to meet a friend, maybe just meet for a coffee rather than doing anything too intense, or going for a short walk, or going to a social event and leaving early without feeling guilty. That's what I did a lot when I was starting to recover and I was still working corporates and it was still expected for me to go to social events. I would go. By the time everyone was chatting and drinking and having fun, they weren't going to notice if I left at 9 p.m. And that's what I would generally do. I would go for the first 3 hours and then I'd leave so that I knew that I could get home and get some sleep. You can also consider hosting people at your house rather than having to travel loads. And that's the thing with autoimmunity recovery. It's about sustainability. It's not about having to do everything and being everywhere. You have to put yourself first. So when you respect your energy, then that is where connection becomes really nourishing rather than feeling depleting. And when you are going out, you should be excited about going out. You shouldn't be dreading it. And if you are dreading it, I know I've been there, and I'm not dreading seeing my friends. I love seeing my friends. I love socializing. I love being around people. But when you are feeling fatigued, or when you're in pain, or when you have digestive issues, you generally just want to be on your own, and you have to respect that. And actually, to get better, you do need a lot more rest initially than you generally think is normal, but that rest pays off in the end. And You just need to focus on yourself and put yourself first. And actually saying no to some things can make a big difference in the long run. And lastly, connect to meaning. And if your entire life becomes about symptom management, then that's going to take over and become a stress in itself. Just because your CRP is high or you have antibodies or your ferritin is low, it's not something we need to think about all the time. And that's why connecting to a creative practice or some form of faith, or connecting with nature or learning or supporting someone else and looking after somebody else, that can make a huge difference. And there is emerging research now that's showing that purpose and having perceived meaning can really influence inflammatory markers in a positive way. And I know a big turning point for me was when I got my dogs. I started looking after them. I started nourishing them. And yes, part of it is probably the oxytocin that you get as part of loving a dog and a pet. But the other part of that is that, you're there nourishing and you feel purposeful. And you may have that with your children, or you may have that with other loved ones or parents, but it can make a big difference. And even without data, we know this intuitively. And healing accelerates when life feels bigger than just focusing on your condition and focusing on other factors in your life and other things that are important to you. So as you know, autoimmunity is complex, it's layered, and it requires clinical precision for the most part, but it can also require connection. And that's not just connection with other people, but to your body, to feeling safe and to having some meaning. And if you're feeling isolated at the moment, you don't have to go through this alone. You can join the Autoimmune Forum. It's designed to be a community that is there to support each other. We talk a lot about different aspects that can be contributing to autoimmune disease. So pop over if you would like to join us. The link will be in the show notes. And if you have any questions about any of this, or you want to share your experience, or you want to connect, then pop over to my Instagram account, which is at the Autoimmunity Nutritionist. If not, have a fantastic weekend and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Thank you very much for joining me today on the Autoimmune Reset. I really hope you enjoyed the discussion, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. And if you liked it, I would hugely appreciate a review on iTunes, as it helps me understand what you like about the podcast and to help share the information with more people. I'm excited to speak to you next time. And remember, you have the power to take the reins on your health. So keep the faith and celebrate the small wins. Until next time.